Hello and welcome out to tonight's Gamers Council. I'm your host, should I say co-host, WebDave, along with my other co-host, RHETRI, and a special guest co-host, the Wandering Dutch. Dutch, what's up, buddy?
Yes.
How's it going? Hope everyone's
great,
well. Having fun.
Awesome.
Doing good. We got the Viking for our first guest. I love it.
Best way to start.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We'll let people get into the chat and then welcome everybody in as well.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in. It's awesome to be here.
It is. So with giving us a minute or so to get more people piled in. If you guys got questions out in the chat, don't forget to add them in the chat. There's no super chats or anything like that, at least not for now. But even then, once we do that, to get to that point, we're still going to be taking questions from people in the audience, people that are here and joining our chat, which we greatly appreciate. Thank you so much for spending some of your Sunday with us. It's awesome. So if you have a question or topic that you want to talk about or a question about something, we may not have all the answers, but by God, we'll give you some opinions. Right or wrong, that's what we're here for, to have a little bit of fun, as it were, on a Sunday night. So yeah, and then I guess we'll get things started with what everybody's been playing this week. Oh, look. Yeah,
Allison's reading our minds.
He is. I love it. So let's go with our guest first, Wandering Dutch. What are you playing?
What am I playing this week? Certainly. So I am playing, or have been playing still Hogwarts, even though I've already beat it. I've been jumping back into Sonic Frontiers because I've got that on my backlog. So I've been playing that a little bit more. Bit of Age of Empires, bit of Sea of Thieves. I'm a grazer as well in between. So unless something's like unbelievably addictive, like Hogwarts was, then I'm just going to graze loads of games at the same time.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm a grazer too, Wandering. I usually don't get fixated on one game, but I guess I'll go next since I'm already started talking. Yep. But I also playing Hogwarts as well, but I just started because it just came out, is Wo Long Fallen Dynasty. The demo is out, and it is very hard. Holy crap. Like the main levels, they're not too bad, but very first boss, wow. Like people were wondering if this is going to be kind of like a Neo, Sekiro, like Elden Ring, Souls type game. Yeah. I mean, Team Ninja games are usually pretty hard, but Jesus, this is making Ninja Gaiden look easy. And I just played those like last year all over again, and man, this game I'm loving it, but man, it's tough. Like you get ready to parry and deflect and all that jazz, because if you can't do that, you're gonna hate this game. You're not gonna make it very far.
Is there tutorials that teach you how to do it properly?
Yes, there are.
Then I can probably play it.
Yeah. So as long as you get your timing down and everything, then I think you'll be all right. But it took me a long time to beat that first boss. I'm still trying to beat the second boss right now. You get like the first 2 levels of the game that you can play, and if you beat it, you get some free DLC that carries over to the full game. So that is what I've been playing. Of course, like COD. I always play COD with the community and Fortnite, stuff like that. So what you been playing, Dave?
That's cool. Well, I have been playing the Hogwarts Legacy.
Yeah, I know you've been playing that.
Imagine that. Been playing the shit out of it. Yeah, and it looks like Gaveston has been playing Call of Duty and new season of Diablo 3. That's nice.
Yep.
So yeah, that's cool. That is very cool. Let's see here. So Dutch, I got to ask you, we greatly appreciate you being here, and thank you so much. So for me, I'm in Central Standard Time, so it's like 6:06 here for me. What time is it for you?
It is currently midnight.
Ooh,
all right.
That's dedication. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
I actually
Mm.
thought it was later.
Yeah, it's
Where are you located, Dutch?
This is usually
those that
boom
don't
start time. So I'm currently in the UK. I'm in Newcastle, of course.
Okay.
Hence the Newcastle top today. Unfortunately, the final didn't go as we wanted, but
Oh no.
Mhm.
it is what it is. As always, next time. But
Yeah.
yes, I'm located in the UK in Newcastle.
Very cool. Very cool.
And so I don't get asked this for the 1 millionth time. Are you Dutch?
I am. Yes.
There you go.
My
The
middle
mystery's
is
over, guys.
Hunter, but speak
You know,
major angles.
I've been wondering that.
Oh, jeez.
That was bad. That was really bad. Yeah, exactly.
This is about delivering great exclusive games for you that ship on platforms where Game Pass exists.
Thanks, Phil.
This is about
All right,
Which
we
is
had enough of
everywhere.
that. He is. He is.
Yeah.
Oh man, why don't we get on the first subject, man? Let's get things
Let's get rolling.
going. Yep.
So we are talking, obviously, my favorite subject, and that's ABK. The ABK merger and everything that basically just went down with Brad Smith.
Midweek.
With the European regulators, the EU. So I'm just going to play this little quick clip from. He had an interview with CBS. I think it was CBS International. I think it was. So let's just roll that. Hopefully this works.
I cannot speak for the European Commission, but I do think today is a good day for gamers around the world. Today we've announced 2 agreements, one with Nintendo, the other with NVIDIA. Together, this will make these games, especially Call of Duty, available to 150 million more people around the world. I think if you're a competition regulator and you're focused on the interests of consumers and competition, today was a good day.
And Sony, that's obviously the big competitor here. You've not managed to sign any agreements with Sony as of yet. They still very much object to this deal. Have you got any closer to getting Sony sort of to any kind of agreement or on your side at all?
Well, I live with the hope that we'll come to terms with
Spoiler,
Sony. I think
nope.
that would be great for consumers around the world. We're not there yet. But I do think as we make progress with others, if we can get a deal done with Nintendo, if we can get an agreement with NVIDIA, it should provide a path forward that others like Sony can build on as well.
And it's not just this, of course, EU case. You've got the case with the FTC in the US, the CMA over in the UK. Lots of hurdles here. How concerned are you at this point of this deal just completely falling through, just given the number of large
Not at
regulators
all.
still very much against the deal?
I think we have a clear path to get this deal done. And today takes us a huge step forward. I think for regulators to be able to look at this deal and recognize that it brings a game like Call of Duty to 150 million more people, that has to be good for competition and consumers. But more than that, I think these 2 agreements together really provide a model for regulators, those that want to have regulatory controls in place. We've been equally clear. We're open to doing that. I think that's the path forward.
And the CMA over in the UK, arguably perhaps one of the toughest opponents here, they've offered some sort of remedies, and one of those is actually, suggesting to
Love this
divest
set.
the business
Looks so bad.
associated
You can tell they're
with
at a hotel
the
or
Call
something.
of Duty games. Is that something you're considering right now?
We really don't see a feasible path to sell off the Call of Duty game. It wouldn't be inexpensive. It just isn't something that seems to be lining up. It's far better, in our view, to bring Call of Duty to 150 million more people. The only reason to sell it off is the CMA's potential concern that if we buy it, we won't provide it to others as broadly. I think that concern should be dispelled by the 2 agreements we've signed today.
Definitely. And what did Satya say?
So if this is about competition, let us have competition.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, Brad is kind of the haymaker guy right now, dropping bombs left and right. I really liked the board that he had up, which I don't have a picture of right now, but basically just saying the 80% PlayStation, 20% Xbox for console market share in the EU. I thought that was great. It was kind of like, okay, if we're all going to play this, let's ignore Nintendo, the guys who sell more games than literally anybody. If we're gonna ignore Nintendo, then let's ignore Nintendo and pretend they just don't exist. And let's go by those numbers. And when you start looking at those numbers between the EU, you look worldwide at 70-30, which by definition is a monopoly. You look at Japan, I think it was 96% or 94%, 6%, Microsoft, something like that. It was in the 90s. Either way, Japan just looked terrible for Xbox. So I think it was, those broad strokes are just painting how bad this is going to look if the EU or the CMA or even the FTC were to, try to continue trying to block this thing. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Dutch, about Nintendo getting the 10-year deal? I mean, part of this was also NVIDIA, right? The whole cloud thing, and adding NVIDIA as a partner essentially for the next 10 years, and kind of getting rid of another check mark to kind of stop the regulators from saying, well, cloud's a problem, but then now we're giving Call of Duty and a bunch of other games to NVIDIA as well. What are your thoughts, Dutch?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Nintendo were kind of singled out by all of the regulators really as to not be in the competitive bracket. They're not one of the top dogs competing. They're outside of them. They're a fitness app.
Whatever that's about.
I don't understand. They're literally the most successful console on the market as it stands out of all of them.
Yep.
But apparently they don't count. So Microsoft are like, well, even if you're not including them, we're still giving them a 10-year deal. Like that's
right.
As they mentioned, 150 million potential customers right there for Call of Duty that don't have it already. So there's another addition. So I think that's always a huge plus for themselves, and that's kind of them saying, listen, even without this is what we'd be doing. So we'd be giving them we're giving Nintendo a 10-year deal, but we're also giving NVIDIA a 10-year deal plus access to every Microsoft Game Studio game to go into their cloud streaming service. It's a little bit different on the NVIDIA side as well, because of course with NVIDIA you have to own the games to stream them. It's not like Game Pass where you just have a subscription service and you play the games that drop in day and date. With NVIDIA, the purpose of that is to be able to play the games you own on the move. So to be able to say, listen, all of our games now are accessible on NVIDIA's cloud streaming service. So if people buy our games on console, on PC, sorry, you'll be able to stream them on the go with NVIDIA GeForce Now. So for NVIDIA, that's a big feather in their cap, but also I think that's a bonus for Microsoft as well, because for those who might not have considered buying some of these Xbox games on Windows, they might just do that now, and because they'll be able to stream them with GeForce Now.
Mm-hmm.
So Microsoft will get the sales money, and NVIDIA will get subscription money. So they're both winning on that sense. For Nintendo, of course, for them, do they really care about any of this? I don't think they cared in the first place, but they're getting Call of Duty, or at least will do if the deal goes through. They'll get it for at least 10 years, and they'll get it day and date with everybody else. So yeah, it's a massive benefit to both of them, and I think regulators, they're kind of just checking off things that regulators are concerned with. They're concerned with cloud and cloud streaming, and Microsoft are saying, listen, you can have our games on your cloud streaming platform.
Yeah, and that's
if that's a concern, like our games can play on our cloud streaming platform, then you can have our games on your cloud streaming platform. So I think if Google was still around, they'd probably say, listen, I mean, you're not a competitor in the console space, so you're not a competitor to us. So have our games on Google Stadia for a week here. And I think they'd do the same to Luna if Luna was a feasible option. But right now, Luna's struggling in North America, let alone it hasn't even launched outside of North America.
There
is no European.
Just feels it just kind of feels like on the Luna side that they're just almost playing like a Sony or Google.
The market's too competitive for it, and
except they're not
Microsoft dominating the cloud market, and like, yeah, but you haven't even launched your product anywhere. You've just launched it in America, and you haven't launched it in Europe. Like, I've been waiting for Luna to come over because I've got Prime, and if you've got Amazon Prime, you've got Luna. It's pretty much as simple as that. But they haven't launched it. So I can't
Yeah.
try it to see what it's like if you're not going to bother even launching the platform in the first place. So they're
Right.
just looking for excuses. And I think Microsoft, even if they went through to it, they could say, listen, they've got the largest cloud network in the world. AWS, Amazon World Services, is literally the largest. It's bigger than Azure by a long
Right.
shot.
Yep.
It is essentially, it's got the most government contracts. It is used in more places than Azure. So they've got the feasibility to do it. They're just not willing to put the money in to make it work. And then they're going to use Microsoft as a reason as to why it won't work, even though they haven't put in the hard work to do it themselves. So I think it's just contradictory from some of these companies to come out and say this. And I think Microsoft as well, if they went and put their facts forward and said, listen, we're doing with GeForce now, these select streaming services that don't have a physical platform, we'd be happy to put our content on there because they aren't competitors. So why it wouldn't harm us. Essentially, it would just mean that more people would buy our products on different platforms.
Right. Yep. Now, what do you think about this, Dave? At least with the 2 points of Nintendo happening and Nvidia happening, and then I'll probably come back around and ask Dutch and you both about the whole Call of Duty not being split out thing. But let's get your thoughts on the Nintendo side and Nvidia, and what do you think that means? And is it really? Do you think the regulators give a crap, or do you think it's actually pushing this is it helping them to go forward, or what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm thinking that Microsoft is doing a lot of educating. Okay, they are doing a lot of educating to the regulators, all of them, all the regulators around the world. And by doing this and making the statement and bringing up the numbers of how many they're adding, it will sink in to the ones, or at least remove the excuses that they either are trying to put out because of people that are the different ones that are trying to stop it, or or at least to make it as an explanation for why they can, we should go ahead and approve this. Maybe we need this, and this, but there you go. We'll take it. I really think this is super close. I think it is so close. And I really like the fact that they did the Nvidia thing, because when it comes down to it, it didn't hurt them. In other words, it's not something that's like, pulling a bunch of money out of their pocket, especially if you have somebody out there, I assume Galveston, already has a collection of games. And then now it's like, well, now I had several games that I owned on, for Microsoft or whatever that I didn't have on my Nvidia. Now he does, so that's that much better for him. And it's just an all over improvement for the industry and for the market. It's a win-win all the way around. And obviously, Sony is the only one that will be losing out. But when you say the big picture, it's a realignment, really. It's kind of bringing them down to where it's a more even playing field. And because even with that, they're still the number one video game console in the world is going to be, as far as console play strictly, is going to be the PlayStation, because more units are out there, I think, than just about any other, and the new games that are coming out. So I just don't think, and they just they don't want to lose any advantage they have. They don't want to lose. So that's kind of why that's it.
Yeah, Sony just doesn't, they just don't want to give it up. I mean, I don't blame them.
Don't blame them.
I don't blame them for fighting this. I don't even necessarily blame them for fighting it the way they're fighting it. We know it's there's a lot of BS, and there's a lot of kind of like one-sidedness going on here. But what do you guys think about the whole Brad saying at the end there that they are not going to be splitting up Call of Duty? Because there's been talks that if they were to parse out Call of Duty and basically just like split this thing right down the middle and maybe just take King and let Call of Duty be its own entity. What do you think? I mean, did you ever think that was going to happen? Do you think that was too crazy? Are you happy that Brad is putting they're putting their foot down, obviously, and they're saying no, like that we are not going to split off this company in all kinds of different directions, especially since COD is made by like 8 different developers. How the hell could you possibly control that and handle that situation? So Dutch, I'm going to go to you first. Like, what are your thoughts about that? Like what Microsoft said, and do you think that might actually hurt them in this case? What are your thoughts on that?
No, absolutely not. I think from the offset, and I think as soon as it came out, I mentioned when people were trying to like have a dig at Xbox here and say, look at this, the regulators are saying specifically that they have to divest this or the deal doesn't go through. I'm like, no, they didn't. If you look at the wording from them, they said if divestment is not feasible or completely infeasible, then we'll look at access remedies and we'll look at behavioral remedies. And that's exactly what they're doing, access and behavioral remedy, because divestment is not feasible in any way, shape, or form. Give up the Call of Duty IP is absolutely unfeasible. And give up the studios that develop that would mean they give up the entire deal, which is infeasible. So that's why Brad just flat out said, absolutely not, and it's never going to happen. And the regulators know that. I don't know why. I don't know whether or not it was. Yeah, it was the CMA. The CMA said,
CMA,
okay, we'll do this. But they did say, again, like I said in their report, and this is why I kind of said people need to start reading these things correctly. That if it is completely infeasible, then we'll look at other remedies. What they said in the report was just, we think that this may be feasible, so that's why we would suggest this first of all. Now, it's easy for Microsoft to then go back and say, listen, this is not feasible on a number of monetary factors. To divest all of this, we'd have to sell for this, which means we'd lose X. That's not feasible. Not only is it not feasible, but that still leaves thousands of developers that work on Call of Duty in a very precarious situation where they don't have any bosses anymore. They've got no leadership. Like, how is that a benefit to anyone?
Right.
Which, it becomes a bit convoluted and weird. So it's, to me, it's just a case of it was pretty much already kind of worded out in what the CMA wanted, but Microsoft are never going to divest anything. It would be ridiculous to spend the best part of 70 billion on an entire company to divest what is the best part of 20 billion worth of that deal, at least.
Right.
So why would you do that? It makes no sense.
What do you think? What do you think, WebDave? What are your thoughts on that?
I 100% agree with Dutch. It makes no sense. I believe there was Michael Proctor, sorry, that said that when he was, and it's actually a pretty good interview with him, that if something like that was to happen, where they were trying to make them not take it, Microsoft wouldn't sell it off. What they would do in whatever market was the one that complained about it, say, like, the European Union will say that. Say if they're the ones that said you can't own them, then what they would do is in that market and in that market only, they would build a conglomerate of a third party entity, and they are allowed to do that to where they don't have a controlling interest in it. They don't have the ability to see who gets what, who gets the rights to it, but they're going to build it with the understanding that it's going to go wherever it goes on everybody else's. So it's basically they're going to get the same thing done. It's just a matter of a different way to a kind of a workaround, which still is not as good for for Microsoft, because they wouldn't be making as much money, at least because of that one territory. but there is workarounds or possibilities because in every other market it's going to go through, but it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. They're going to do.
I mean,
this deal.
I don't agree with what Pactor said at all in that situation. To be honest with you, because that would not work. Because they still be a subsidiary of Microsoft, which the EU would not be okay with.
Yeah, but there's other companies that have done it in the past, RHETRI. That's why he's talked about it. It actually has.
Well,
worked
I'm
before.
going right, but I'm going by what the mergers and acquisition lawyers who've done this a million times said. Pactor does not know what he's talking about, and that wouldn't happen because at the end of the day, if you're a subsidiary of Microsoft, Microsoft still has a say, and they wouldn't allow it. You know what I mean? So I'm just going off of what guys like Luke Steele literally went and said to Pactor, no, dude, like that wouldn't work either. Luckily, it doesn't matter. We don't have to worry about it because that Microsoft is not going down that road. Thank God.
Hire Luke. Bring Luke in. Hire Luke.
Yeah, that's part of the team. Yeah, I got to trust someone who's got who's got a good reputation, has been doing this for a long time, who's directly dealt with the CMA. Not I like Pactor, but Pactor gets it wrong a lot. As a matter of fact, you can look up how often Pactor gets it wrong and how crazy some of Pactor's thoughts are on the industry.
I mean, one of the points he made as well was something like you could take the CMA to court. You can't take the CMA to court.
No, there's so many. Thank you. Please tell it, Dutch. There's so many people getting this wrong. They think cat is the same as like the FTC going to federal court. Nope. I've heard that way too many times. Even in our own community, y'all got to stop getting that wrong. Cat has no teeth whatsoever. The CMA wants to kill this deal. Dutch, is it dead if the CMA want? Thank you. It's dead in the water, guys. If CMA kills this,
if it goes to Cat, the tribunal, which is what it is, it's just a tribunal. They can only take it to Cat if there's been something wrong with the actual process of the investigation. So something that has been physically wrong, or they've missed a part of the investigative process and haven't done that correctly. So it's all to do with how the investigation's been done, and if they've done
not what they said, how it was investigated. Which means
exactly.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. Only if through missing a certain part of their investigative process or failing in a part of their investigative process, does it then change the outcome? Because, okay, if we did include this and if we did do this correctly, then it would have led to a differing outcome, which means that the outcome does in fact change. That's the only way. But Microsoft would first have to take it to Cat and say, listen, you didn't do X, Y, and Z. And they have to prove that they didn't do these things correctly into the letter of the law. And if they haven't done those things correctly into the letter of the law, they don't change the decision. They simply tell the CMA to go back, reinvestigate. The decision is still the same at the end. The decision is still the same at the end.
Yes.
It isn't a case of we don't agree with this, so we're going to sue you for it, because that isn't a thing. It's literally not the same in Europe. So the same in Europe where they would go to it again. I don't know what the version of tribunal is over there, but they would take it to essentially a tribunal. But again, it would just get bounced back to their regulatory authority. They would reinvestigate. They would make sure all the processes have been done correctly this time. If they have, and the decision is still the same, then that is the final decision. In America, of course, what we know is it's entirely different. So they would either sue to have it in their own court, in-house, and then go from that way, just to put a temporary block on situations, so that they would then kind of come up with remedies, or they would sue to go to federal. Now, what we know is that the FTC haven't moved to take it to federal, and they've kept it in-house, which means they know they haven't got the grounds to go to federal, which means that it will always be remedies for the FTC. So it's just a case of them coming up with remedies for the FTC, and that'll be fine. But in the CMA and the EU, which is why it's a harder market, is because remedies have to be done with them. There is no ifs and buts. It has to be remedies or nothing.
Yeah. I got a quick question for you, Dutch. Do you think COD stops for PlayStation at at the 10-year mark, or do you think it's possible they're actually going to push that remedy even further, like 15 years? Or my crazy conspiracy theory is until as long as COD exists, you get it PlayStation type of thing, or do you think
they'll never ever give COD in perpetuity? Not only that, but the whole purpose of this is to have competition in the market. Now, what you're going to do if you give a favorable deal to one platform over the other platforms you've already signed agreements with for 10 years, is give favorability to a singular platform, which means that the competition is no longer fair.
Yeah, I like that.
It's impossible. And again, there has been no agreement in any large merger in any market in perpetuity ever. There's been no in perpetuity contract ever.
Right.
I don't know why Sony
it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, because it doesn't make any sense for a very logical reason. Nobody knows where anything is going to be in 10 years.
Right.
For them to give 10 years in the first place is already extremely long. Now, I deal in energy trading, so we sell energy. All it's business energy as well, so it's not like just selling it to somebody's house. That makes no difference. You would take a 10-year contract for your house because that would be very sensible and sane.
Right.
What you wouldn't, especially if you own the house, what you don't want to do, however, if you're a business, is look at anything beyond 10 years because you're thinking, well, where is the energy market going to be in 10 years? I might take out a 10-year agreement for our energy procurement and they've fixed it at this price. But in 10 years' time, we're completely off the grid. We're all completely reliant on solar or renewable energy. No one's actually paying for energy anymore by that point because we're all off grid and making our own. So now I've got to pay for energy 4 years beyond that. So this is what people have got to think about in the technology front as well. Like, why would you agree? And why would Sony want longer than 10 years if they didn't
to lock
think
themselves into a possible... Right. I mean, they could lock themselves into a dying product. And not that I think that would happen with COD or anything like that, but
yeah, but it very well could be because it is the fad right now,
right?
And it's a mega thing right now, but there is absolutely no guarantees in 10 years' time. I mean, it's 10 years of Call of Duty. Like, even if you think it's a good game now and everyone enjoys it and it's a mega hit now, there is absolutely zero guarantees in anything that it'll be around again. Now, we've seen so many huge franchises that have just disappeared. Like, have a look at Project Gotham, for instance. That was a mega, and even now people go back to it and say, listen, we'd still love a Project Gotham now. Like, Project Gotham in some respects was better than Forza, and it probably would have been. That was a Microsoft IP, and they changed that and then just went down to the route of Forza Motorsport instead of Project Gotham Racing. But Project Gotham also had track bikes and motorcycles and many other vehicles and things like that. So it added another dimension. But that's gone. It no longer exists. There's many, if you have a look through the thing where people go, well, we'd love to have this IP back, but like the companies have just forgot it. It could be a case in 10 years' time that Call of Duty is no longer a thing. There's a new FPS that's taken over. That's another realistic FPS that feels like Call of Duty, but isn't Call of Duty, and it's not produced by them. There's absolutely zero guarantees. And again, technology front going forward, there's no guarantees we'll have consoles. Like Microsoft has said it. This is like, we'll know what we're going to do till next generation. Next generation will have a console. We want people to play wherever they want to play. But I look how far cloud streaming's already come.
True.
Look how far the consoles have come in 2 decades, let alone 1. In 2 decades, we went from the Super Nintendo and then in the regular Nintendo Entertainment System to the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5. Now look at the stark difference in the technological advancements there. And PlayStation.
Let me go down that. Let me go down that road with you because I've talked about with other people about this too. Because I feel like maybe I'm on an island by myself when it comes to that and consoles possibly disappearing in the future. My take is I personally do not think they'll ever go anywhere just because we're seeing the trend of consoles selling more than they ever have, PC selling more than they ever have, and hardware sales through the roof on almost every single platform. So I don't think, unlike someone like I think King David or maybe it might be King Galvinson would know, says that he doesn't even think there's going to be a PS6. which I think is absolutely bananas. I love his crazy conspiracy theories, but I don't agree with that one. I do think cloud will take over. I do think it will surpass console gaming and hardware gaming in general. But do you guys see a world where hardware? Because here's why I say this, because I think hardware, some of us always want the best of the best of the best, right? So you want that 4090 GPU in your PC. You want those frames. You want that 8K when 8K comes out, blah, 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 right? So a lot of us just want either the best or to just work easily. Do you guys actually see a world where consoles completely disappear based off of cloud infrastructure? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I don't know when, but yes. Absolutely.
Okay.
Because it doesn't, like, what you have to remember with cloud infrastructure as well is there still has to be hardware at the back end. So even though the hardware is not based in your situation where you are, there will always be hardware, but at the back end. So even with NVIDIA GeForce Now, the top tier of NVIDIA GeForce Now is currently a 3080, but it's getting, sorry, a 3090, but it's getting upgraded to a 4090. So it's remote a 4090 with 4K 60, and it's seamless. Now, if you can,
and they're saying with ray tracing too, and that's it. You know, so you're getting all the bells and whistles.
Theoretically, is just own a regular PC that has GeForce Now on it, or even your phone, which has GeForce Now on it.
Right.
As long as you have something that can buy the games in the first place, then you can stream that game. So it could theoretically be that all you need is the peripherals. Now that means that Microsoft and everybody else will still make their own peripherals, and look at this fancy new PlayStation DualSense controller that will work with PlayStation Now or work with Xbox Cloud. And we've got all these fantastic new things that work directly with this. And that would, to be honest, the only thing that's stopping any of the cloud infrastructure advancing quicker is the telecommunications and network infrastructure in every country worldwide. And that's not something without PlayStation and Xbox and Nintendo and all of these games company investing in the local network infrastructures, which would technically be what they have to do in order to push it forward.
Right.
Like it's all well and good in AT&T or Virgin or Sky. It's all well and good them trying to retrofit entire countries with super fast fiber optic cables and like 5G, 6G, 7G, whatever this gets up to over the years to make sure that everything's speedy fast. It's all well and good that them trying to do it, but there's only so much that they can do from an investment point of view in order to get this done quickly. So it really boils down to how quickly the world can scale up on its network infrastructure. If the world scales quicker than it is now, then that's fine. I mean, but even if you have a look now, like over in America, you can get 1,000 upload, 1,000 download. In the UK, I've got 1,000 download, but I've got something like limited like 50 upload.
Yeah, that's basically what I have here too. But
like it's really weird. Like, but on the business front in the UK, on the business fiber, you can get 1,000, and in some respects, in the business fiber, you can get 2,000. But consumer networks, 1,050.
Yeah,
50 is not a. It's
not terrible.
It's not terrible when you're talking.
It ain't
like
1,000.
1,000, yeah. And then like this for things, even the basic things. If you have a look on this front, like for 4K streaming, and this gives you an idea as to where the limits are worldwide so far. For 4K streaming, you have to have a minimum of 100 upload. A minimum of 100 upload.
That's a big problem. That's definitely a big problem.
The buffer, the bitrate buffer needs to be double of that, of the quality of the image that you're sending through. So, and of course, depending on how much of the encoding and what quality you want the encoding to be through, it needs to be double of what you need to do it. And the minimum you need is 50, which means the space you need is an additional 50. So it's 100 bare minimum upload.
Right.
So, and then of course you need the hardware to do it on the back end. Now, if you're talking about game streaming at a quality that is worthwhile, where you have extremely low latency, where you have no buffering, where you have no artifacting, anything like that, and then it all boils down to it literally all boils down to the network infrastructure and things like that. Do I say that we're not going to get there? No. I think it's probably going to be 2 decades until we're at a point where network infrastructure is going to be there.
Yeah.
But I do see a point where at some point there won't be physical consoles. There'll still be peripherals, but everyone will be vying for what their service can provide. They'll still have something. They'll still have tiers. And they'll still have equipment, like I say, controllers. Now, and again, you have to look specifically at Ready Player One. And it wasn't about like everyone had these like he had even had the cheapest headset known to man and things like that. And you went inside of like the big mega corporation, and they had really fancy ones and treadmills and everything like that. And this guy's like, then you can win in-game like outfits and wear them and things. So I think it's all going to boil down. It will at some point all boil down to peripherals, not the physical hardware.
I like that theory. I don't agree with it, but I like it. I think hardware will always be around.
Not like this. The only thing is when with that theory is people assume that that's like within 5-10 years,
right?
And my understanding is that it is going to be a point where there will not be consoles. Yeah, they're selling really well now, but there comes a point where it becomes unfeasible to keep up with the technological advancements year on year. So you're either going to be at a point where you're going to have a brand new console every year to keep up with the changes, or the consoles are going to have to be that far advanced that you've got a big leap. And right now, what we've already seen in this generation is there's already Zen 4 processors on PC. There's already DLSS 3. There's already a 4090, which has got like more than quadruple the headroom that the current series consoles and PlayStation 5 have got. So they're already 2, 3, 4 generations ahead on PC. And we're only 2 years into this generation on console. And that's just one. Now, we haven't used, and this is the only thing, the developers haven't even used what they've been given on that front yet.
The truth. Yeah.
But then we've also got to factor in the point that when does there come a point where AI and a lot of the AI stuff starts doing a lot of the legwork for the developers?
Yeah.
These are the things where we're talking about points, the future, and it's like that's why I'm saying it's going to be at least 2 decades until we see a shift from console.
Yeah, a couple of quick points I want to make on that. One other thing, Dutch, which you were just saying, but the consoles we have right now aren't at their max potential. But then you have Sony, which we know have put in some contracts that they want to have parity based on their level of quality. So in certain games that aren't necessarily made for an exclusive console, they're not going to have the parity or the power of the Xbox behind it. We know that the Xbox is the most powerful system on paper, and we know that they have a lot of potential. And I think we're really going to find out some of that potential when Starfield and Redfall release, because those are going to be next gen or current gen levels of gameplay. One thing I do want
on that, just quickly, I was going to say on that point specifically, and I will say this to everybody in any chat, no matter what platform you play on, you will never see the most advanced gameplay visually or technically from a third-party studio, unless it is exclusive to a platform. Because if it's exclusive to a singular platform, you are guaranteed to have the best version that is going to utilize everything for that specific set of hardware. If you're doing it for multiple SKUs and you have to have parity, then one of them is going to get pulled. No matter which one it is, one of them is going to get pulled down. One of them. It could be PlayStation has an edge for its SSD, raw SSD speeds without velocity architecture and all that stuff. So that one causes this one with its data feed-ins and things like that to be slow, and you can't do it because of that. It could be the opposite side, that Xbox's raw GPU power can push out much higher fidelity of texture filtering and texture quality and shadows and everything like that. But because PlayStation doesn't have that little bit more headroom on the GPU power, it pulls it down again and it levels it off. So, yeah, all I would say to anybody from any platform is the only way you know your console is pushing the best is from its first party. And that's where you can't do comparisons, because all you can do is look at what is given and say, how well is this pushing what PlayStation can do? And I think the only one really to push the PlayStation visually so far this generation has been Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, as
I can agree with that.
God of War was, as beautiful as Horizon was, those were restricted by their previous gen platforms. And as people can't say they weren't, they were beautiful, don't get us wrong.
I mean, we
But
know
there would
they
have been
were.
far more they could have done if they just focused on the current gen hardware. Ratchet did not. And it was beautiful. Absolutely flawless.
And unfortunately didn't sell that well, which is absolute BS, because that game to me is very close to a masterpiece. It's so good.
Absolutely agree.
I'd like to take a second to thank the chat for being here tonight. Obviously, we're still going. Don't worry. But I just want to thank Mav for joining us. He had some really good points that I want to read off to everybody real quick. And that was the hardware becomes even more of a hardcore enthusiast platform, and it is more expensive, and the majority will play on cloud, which is a very good point.
Yeah,
and
I do agree with
as
that.
he continues, he goes, that's my prediction. Every few years, they should have hardware upgrades, and they will make profit from them, which is a good point. And then the last one, those upgrades and tech
Mm-hmm.
and hardware are also what the infrastructure of the cloud is based on. That's one of the reasons why Microsoft put those servers in there based off of the Series X.
Yeah, they zip tied them all together.
Yeah,
That's how it started.
Yeah. They changed those in the tail end of 2021 from 1X to Series X.
Right.
Welcome out
which I swear I saw the improvement on, because I was testing it around that time, and
definitely
there was a definite difference. So you could see an A/B comparison was great.
And the benefit, the main benefit that I saw actually was still like console streaming is absolutely immaculate. When you're doing cloud streaming on your console, just to test games out you don't necessarily want to install, it is pretty much flawless. Every now and again, you might have a little artifact here and there, or it might break or something, but you just restart the game, you're fine. It works. It sorts itself out. Cloud streaming on PC, absolutely immaculate. Even through the browser, it is literally pretty much perfect. Brilliant. Couldn't fault it. Mobile is where it needs its improvements.
I 100% agree with you. Mobile is where I step away. I've used it on everything that you just said, and mobile is 100% the problem, in my opinion. The browser works pretty good. Like you said, on the console, it works. That's one of the best features, I think, that is just not talked about a lot. So I really love that feature, going onto the console and just going right to play, just to see if I'm going to like the game, and then I can download it. I just use it for a quick trial. Exactly right. Because as we all know, Microsoft, in my opinion, made a huge F up and did this proprietary adding on space bullcrap on the back, made a deal with Seagate, and now they're paying the piper for that one.
What the funny thing is, though? You know what the really funny thing is you can actually get these micro SSDs that fit into houses that are shaped to go into the back of a Series X and work perfectly. Now, all Microsoft theoretically need to do is just sell one of the peripheral adapter things and say, any of these approved micro SSDs that you can buy on the market that fits into the back of these will work. That's theoretically
they have to do the adapter, Dutch, because we all knew, anyone who knows anything about technology saw that PlayStation's idea was better from the start, because you knew that the prices were gonna stay here for Seagate and everything else was gonna sink, because it always does.
Better in one way and not in the other. So it was better in the fact that it gives more
ease of use,
but the ease of use is not.
Ease of use 100, and I you're right. The vast majority, I guess this is more of a hardcore.
Launched it, they were just like, just buy an SSD, and people were buying them, and they were just like, why is this not working? Because it's not that's
right. They had to have their approval SSD list and all that jazz. It's really the hardcore that complain about this stuff, because we're the ones who are expanding. Usually, the vast majority of people probably are never going to have to expand the original storage. They'll just delete it off.
Oh,
and that gets that whole argument too gets easier too because of cloud, right? Like I was just saying 5 minutes ago, you get to test out a game for 5 minutes. You don't even have to download it. It might be 100 gig game, and you're like, well, I don't like it. I just saved 100 gigs and a few hours of downloading. I didn't have to waste money, time, and space on my hard drive. So I don't know. Maybe it's just I'm seeing it a lot right now. A lot of people are bringing up the expansion. I don't blame them because we were told those prices were going to drop, and they really haven't. They've dropped like $10 or something ridiculously bad. But it's not a problem for me yet, and I'm a hardcore user. But I'm getting close. I have had to shift some stuff. Of course, you can use an external drive and go back and forth. But,
it's an issue for someone like me who's a grazer, and I like to have 400 games installed at the same time just to be able to turn anything on at any point. So my Series X is fine because I've got 2 regular USB drives with everything that isn't Series X enhanced, and all of those games are just on the regular USB 3 drives, and they're fine.
Right. Which they play
anything
fine,
that's
right?
Series X enhanced, that's when it becomes a bit of a battle, and I'm like, so what ones am I actually playing now that I want to play right now? So it's going to become more of an issue.
Back and forth game.
Yeah. It's
like,
going
what
to
am I going to move over?
as the generation goes on, because as the generation goes on, and we've got Redfall, which is Series X only and Series S only, and you've got Starfield, which is next gen only, and Forza, which is next gen only, and Hellblade, which is next gen only, Fable, that then it becomes an issue, and that's when you need to have these hard drive options as a proprietary, well, as a sole focus. I think right now they can kind of get away with it because as long as you get a USB drive, anything that isn't Series X enhanced, you can still play. It's perfectly fine. And there's still a lot of that going on right now where it's not Series X enhanced and you can still play it. But as the year goes on, so essentially they need to drop it this year, because as the year goes on and go into next year, and every game that comes out is only working on the Series X and S, then you're going to need that hard drive space, which means you need the SSD.
Yep.
I think this is the last year that they can kind of get away with that being an issue. Next year, they need to have, by the end of this year, going into next year, they need to have that fixed. They need to have many more options. And especially when you see the cost of SSDs being down, like I saw a deal now for $150, you can get a 2 terabit on PlayStation 5.
That's right.
And it's still $200 for a 1 terabit.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. Yeah, that's definitely a problem. I like Case. Case says it's exactly what Netflix is like now. Most watch Netflix, and snot noses like me insists on the Blu-ray disc. Right there with you, Kay. I think maybe I'm talking from a snot nose perspective. I'm talking, I'm the hardcore, and then there's, I count for nothing, right? The majority of other players will be fine. We'll be perfectly fine.
We'll make sure we welcome out the chat that's here. Thank you so much for being here tonight, guys. Kay Asante and of course Mav was here from Fun Speculation. Galveston is here, and there's a bunch of others that are in the chat, and we really appreciate you guys here. But if you guys got questions or you want to change the subject or change it to something else, or if you have an input or something like that, comment, please let us know. Drop it in the chat. Just put question in front and then put it in there and just drop it and let us know, because we're here. In fact, with that said, looks like we're going to get one right now. I'm going to put up right there.
Galveston, do you think consoles are holding back games from the hardware side? Dave, I'll go to you first. What do you think?
Do I think that? Okay, do you think that
all
consoles are holding back games? I would say that no.
I'm guessing he's meaning like a Series S is holding back like the Series X version, the PS5 version, the PC version.
No, I don't think that at all, because usually the way that Microsoft, that's what really makes me mad. People call it a potato and holding stuff back, because it's really not, because the way the games in their programming are designed that they can hit both marks and run really well at both levels, and the game can look as good as it can look on the S and still look incredible and that much better and full potential on the X, and still be playable just as exactly the same as it would be on the other. Just obviously it may be a It may not be 4K 60, but it's still going to be able to be played. And there's a lot of TVs. As much as we like to think, there's a lot of people out there that still don't have 4K TVs.
Yeah.
There's even a few people out there, not as many, but there's a few people that still play on CTRs because it's just what they have.
Yeah.
You know. So little Timmy in his game room is what Dad's hand-me-down from 10 years ago is. And that's what he's playing on. So anyway.
What are your thoughts, Dutch, on that? Do you think
I've said this even for the generation as it's went on. It's all well and good blaming the technology, but and of course I know that's not what Galveston's doing. He's not blaming the technology.
Right.
But the developers first of all, we have to rely on the developers that are making these games, and these developers that are making these games aren't putting to use the technology they've already got, let alone all of the headroom that they've got on PC. If they're not maxing out what's already available, and they haven't even scratched the surface on what's capable on Series X and PlayStation 5, let alone what's available on PC. And what's available on PCs, they've got an unbelievable amount of headroom, but they're not making use of it. But they're not making use of additional technologies that are available to them. So if you have a look at the Flight Sim, and I have to always go to that from a technological standpoint. If you have a look at what Flight Sim does from a technological standpoint on both cloud and PC, not cloud, on PC and on console, is it leverages not only regular hardware, but also the cloud. And this is always a gimmick originally, but for Flight Sim specifically, there's over 5 petabytes of information that's streamed in for the game to work. Now, that is a physical impossibility to get 5 petabytes of information on hardware. You couldn't store 5 petabytes in your house. Like,
yep.
You'd have to have some serious leverage from an SSD perspective in order to stream 5 petabytes of information. What they've managed to do on the cloud front there is streaming everything to do with world data. This is a 1-to-1 scale over an entire planet using the cloud. And we're talking real-time air traffic, real-time weather. We're talking all of the graphical and all of the texture filtering and things across the board. Everything is streamed in as and when you need it. And there's only one studio that's actually leveraged what the cloud is capable of so far. And that isn't even scratching the surface, because I think even then, Flight Sim could look and run even better than it does if they leveraged the actual physical hardware more and not just relied on the cloud to do a lot of the heavy lifting in the background. But that's what the cloud is there for, is to do a lot of the heavy lifting and the texture filtering and the texture streaming. But if you have a look at it from a hardware perspective, and we've seen it so far this generation, like if you have a look at some of the games that have been released, they look good, but there's been like, and even Hogwarts, which is one of my game of the years, it looks absolutely beautiful. But I am under no illusion that is the benchmark of what games can look like, either on PC or on console.
Yeah,
there is far more left to do on every front of what these machines are capable of. And I've seen there's one guy, Paolo Cianti, that I follow on there, that used to work at Ninja Theory, and he follows me as well. And he does a lot of the graphical work on Twitter, and he continuously posts Unreal Engine 5 tech demos on his timeline of what he worked on. So he reimagines scenarios from every game that's been kind of designed and rebuilds these set scenarios in Unreal Engine 5 to showcase what the hardware is well, at least the software for creating these games is capable of.
Yeah.
And even just these little snippets of what he's designing in a minimal situation, not on a huge game scale front, but the minimal little scenarios he's posted is above and beyond anything we've had on any platform so far.
Right.
Yeah. So I know from a little below point here, none of these consoles are holding back anything. But when you're still designing, and especially when we have to look at the overall picture, which is the bottom line hardware recommendations on PC are still below the last generation capability of the last generation consoles.
Right.
We're talking in some
Which
of them
is
I've seen
absolutely true.
very recently are still GTX 9070s. We're not talking
my
about
God.
1080s. We're talking about 970s.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then you've got 1080s.
Right. So
still
I
on
mean, the
in mix
reality
there.
of it, if you want to point blame, is you can literally point at the PC master race. Unfortunately, I mean, because that's the truth, right? If
Yeah, but it's all about- But also the
it's the
bottom line
lowest
is
barrier of entry, right? So
yeah, from the bottom line is that these developers have got to provide scalability on console like they do on PC.
Yeah.
It has to come to that point because it's all the same architecture. It's all x86 now, including PlayStation's x86 architecture, which means that you can have the same scalability. You can treat the console version as a PC version. You can provide them all of the additional assets, and you can let the person decide how much headroom they want to go for. You can do that. You can give them that option. Do you want it ultra with this resolution? Do you want to just have this, but we do 100% scaling, so a 1440p image is this? You can do all of these things on PC, but you can't do it on console yet. We've seen minor options where you can choose fidelity and you can choose this, but that's so basic in comparison to the PC scalability. And that's what they've got. You can literally make any game on PC look like an absolute potato.
Mm-hmm.
If you want it to run on really bad hardware, you can get it running on really bad hardware. And that's the difference.
You get all your frames, but it's going to look like crap.
Yeah, exactly.
But I have a feeling this is never, personally, I don't think this problem will ever go away, because I think comes down to money and marketing and just the time that the devs, it all comes down to the devs. Like Microsoft's getting blamed for third-party devs not doing their system, not developing enough and putting enough into the systems that are on the Series X and Series S. That's on the devs. That is not Microsoft's fault. That is just time, and they put priority on PlayStation. Clearly, it's happened 3 times in a row now, where you see Digital Foundry. Right now, Series X has more games running on it better than the PS5. But 3 times in a row, we've seen that the PlayStation is beating out the Series X. It's most likely just due to them put more time on the PlayStation platform because they have a bigger user base. And I don't see that going away anytime soon, because now with more pieces of hardware and more platforms out there, it's more SKUs, and that's a pain in the butt. If you've ever developed anything in your life, you would know this. I have, and it sucks. It is not easy to do. So I just don't see the problem ever going away, unless they come up with some great AI technologies. I mean, you got DLSS and all that stuff. Maybe
even then, that's why I'm saying, like, the focus needs to be specifically on first party, because third party you can never trust either way. It's either going to be in favor of one or in favor of the other. And you can't directly accuse them of doing such, because it might not be that case. But in some cases, it might be. The problem is when you start getting into the rhetoric of, oh, well, the developer's doing this for X, Y, and Z reason, and it becomes like a daft argument. But on the first party front, that's where on both sides you're going to see the real leverage of what these systems can do. So I think that's when you're going to see the technological advancements. So I would say to anybody from any front, again, I don't think any hardware is being held back. I think we haven't seen what they're capable of as yet, and first-party studios will show you that. Specifically, first-party studios will show you that. But I think all fans need to also start to reduce their expectations on how quick games are going to come out. If you want these games to be technologically advanced and push the boundaries, you're going to have to get used to giving these studios more time.
I agree, and I think Microsoft and what they're doing with their studios, I think they're doing that. I think almost I've been trying to tell people, think of any game that you want that's a AAA that usually takes 4 to 5 years is now going to take 5 to 6 for Microsoft. I would put your money on that.
You know, like The Last of Us originally, The Last of Us took 7 years. God of War took something like a decade.
Yeah,
exactly.
We know Starfield is at least a decade in the making. There's like these big major AAA games now are between 7 years and 10 years to create. And we're talking about from original inception all the way through to final product.
Right. I agree.
But people that are going to go, when's the release date? Slow down. Like, if you want this game to be as good as it can be, you just leave them to it. When they are ready to show it, they'll ready to show it. I'm glad Playground came out and kicked Microsoft back and said, listen, we'll show Fable when Fable is ready.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Not when you think it's ready. We will show it when we think it's ready.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I want all studios to do personally. When the studio is ready and they feel that it's in its best position, then put it out.
Yeah. Yep. I just want to bring up. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Dave. Go ahead, Dave.
I just don't want to. I don't want to. Kind of want to change the subject real quick here. I also want to thank RSJ Fan for being here today. Looks like he may have to be stepping out, but and of course, Kazante and everybody else that's joined us.
Highlander. RSJ is a girl. Just FYI.
Oh, okay. Thanks, darling. I didn't know. Sorry.
Bye, Becca.
And Highlander, thank you for being here as well. But there is one question, and Richard, you have it in your, and I'm going to bring it up now. That I want to ask the Wandering Dutch. We'd be remiss if we didn't bring this to Dutch's. What are his thoughts?
I love
this,
yes,
because he likes good movies as well as we do. We know that Blumhouse makes some really good movies. And what about this game they're talking about? Have you heard anything about it, or have you Dutch? What are your feelings about them making? I mean, they make some damn good horror movies. How about them working on a new horror game? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, creating a studio to specifically make horror games is fantastic. I'm super hyped that a brand new AAA horror studio is being created by Blumhouse.
It's not. I just want so we can get the information out there. It's not going to be AAA. Well, whatever your definition of AAA is. This is going to be all indie studios, and not a single one of these supposedly it's going to be 10 million for the budget and below. But it sounds like there's going to be a bunch of them. So it sounds like Blumhouse is going to just do like it's going to be made by indie studios.
Look at Dutch's face.
10 million and below.
Cool. Mobile games, I love them.
There could be some really. With the Unreal Engine 5, man, you've seen it. You've seen like what can be done.
What was the budget on Friday the 13th? I still love that game. Sorry,
it was under 10, wasn't it?
I think
it was. It was like 7 or something like that. And I guess Don Schlescher, from PlayStation is the CFO of this new studio.
To put it into perspective from a funding side. To get good localization worldwide, it costs $500,000.
Yeah.
If you're going in with a budget per game of 10, that budget's going to be up super quickly. That's without
maybe I don't know what was Outcast. I don't know that. I don't know the budgets of all these games, but I mean,
that's. So
sorry, you just got very excited, and I just went, no, you don't. So sorry.
Like, I mean, from a narrative perspective, these should be good horror games narratively. I think one of the things we've been lacking on the horror game front is gritty, realistic horror games that don't feel cringe. They don't feel like, oh, okay, this isn't really horror. Because we've seen a lot of horror games, but none of them have actually been horror. Like the last horror,
like actiony,
that's actually
too much action.
That's actually been like, ugh, creepy. Is still Kojima's PT that never seen the light of day.
Yep.
Because that was like, see, like walking through that, and you were like, nope, nah, I'm not doing it.
Exactly.
Absolutely not. And that's like we have, even with Dead Space, it's like, oh, you've got a couple like whoa jump scares every now and again. But that's like jump scares are like especially in horror movies now. I know
the cheap.
It's the
cheap
cop out. It's the cop out.
It still gets me though. Dead Space still scares me.
Like great horror movies are like building up suspense to the point where you're like literally scared enough to walk around the corner and when is it going like when's something going to happen, and then eventually boom it hits you. And a lot of games don't do that now, and that's where horror's been really lacking in games. Like Resident Evil now, there's like it lost its horror element years ago. There's nothing horror about Resident Evil now. It's just an action shooter that happens to be in the horror genre for some reason.
I agree with that sentiment big time.
Dead Space is again, it's creepy. It's got some jump scares in it, but it's not really horror. Like there's very rarely any actual horror games out now, and I think like that's what I mean when we look at PT. And even if you watch the video back for PT now, it's super creepy. You'd hear like little things in the background. You hear like
Yes. Yeah.
and you'd look up and there was something just on the balcony just staring at you. And you're like, oh.
I'm just going to mention one that I loved back in the day that I thought was a great mix of shooter with horror, and that was Fear. That little girl. Do you remember that?
Alma.
That was so good. Alma, thank you. That's
and that's what I'm saying by it's lacking it, because that wasn't, it was more psychological than it was. And that's psychological horror beats everything. Jump scares do nothing. Psychological horror where you think there's something remiss about this room and I can't quite place it. And you turn around and then all of a sudden an object's not in the same place it was in. You're like, something not right here.
Yeah.
And this is what I think the horror genre needs in video games. Again, it needs to get that point where you're more concerned about moving forward and not rushing through a game. And you're thinking,
yes,
do I really want to go around that corner?
Yeah.
And that's how I play all those games.
Sure.
That's why games like Fear, Outlast, like I know I've said this before, but that's why it's exactly what you're saying, Dutch, is like fear of going into the room. I'm always doing this when I go into the room, you know? That's what I want. Scare me.
You're going to have to cut that out of you doing swinging like a girl. You're going to have to cut that out.
You loved it. I do.
Like,
before we get...
it's like the torch thing as well, like where you only had the torch and it was a survival horror and things like that. And if that ran out, you were like, oh, like it's run out. Like what am I gonna do? I can't see anything, and you're scrambling around in the dark trying to find things only with like the moonlight kind of lighting up certain areas and things. And that's where Blumhouse needs to fill in the gap. It needs to take it back to this psychological horror that we've been missing.
Yeah, that would be
this
cool.
PT element of horror that we've been missing.
Have they ever
made
a
scenario
game?
But it needs to get there.
Have they ever made a horror game based off The Purge?
Not yet.
I mean, don't you think that would be bloody and just because you just don't know what's going to be?
I mean, it could be. It can't be worse than the movies. So
wait, what? Oh, that's it.
I like the original. After that,
the original Purge was good. The original Purge was good.
The original was awesome.
Yeah, I like the original. I just want to answer this question real quick because Highlander. I don't think we put this up yet. Highlander's asking, do you guys think the Series S will get an upgraded like the S4 Pro?
No.
What do you guys? No,
there's no need for updates or anything or any kind of gen stuff.
You don't think they'll make like another like basically do the same thing on the next gen, like have a lower powered version? I actually do, but guess I'm alone.
Yes, but if we do see them, it's going to be at least another 3-4 years away.
Oh, if he's talking mid-gen refresh, then I agree with you. I don't think that's coming. I definitely do not think mid-gen is coming anytime soon.
No need.
Like even if you have a look at the one, like the Xbox One, the only reason they brought out the One X was to get some of the power narrative back.
Yeah.
Because of course that only was out for like a year and a half, and then we had the next gen. So no, like the Series S is leaps and bounds above the One X, and we're still releasing games for the One X.
Yeah.
So no, I don't think we'll need it as yet. The entire generation's been pushed back by a year due to the pandemic, so it's going to push any requirement for it back further, and then it becomes a point of, do we bother doing a refresh or do we just focus on the next gen?
Yeah.
And if they leverage what's capable in the systems plus leverage the cloud for the console, then you're not gonna need a refresh. You can just focus on the next gen.
Yeah. I mean, do you think oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Do you think if PlayStation decides to do one sooner, then it'll just force the hand of Microsoft to do the same? I mean, it's kind of you don't think they'll do it tit for tat?
I don't even think PlayStation's going to do one, to be fair. I think PlayStation have already released multiple SKUs of the first PlayStation 5, and that was just to get to cut costs and solve some of the heating issues and things like that.
Right.
And I think that's as much as they need to do. And I think even them, from an internal perspective, they might be looking at maybe doing it, but I think they'll also look at, let's just focus on the next generation. Like, we haven't even scratched the surface of what this console can do yet. From a GPU perspective, from anything, to be honest, from a CPU perspective, from any of the internals, I just don't think any of them, PlayStation 5, Series X, Series S, none of them need an upgrade. Not immediately. And I think if you compare it versus PC, that's a bit unfair because PC, of course, changes year to year. And even then, if you have a look at the differences year to year on PC, they're not even touching the edges of what's capable on 3090 card, let alone 4090.
Yep.
And the only one forcing change on PC is NVIDIA with DLSS. And they're saying, okay, well, DLSS 3 is exclusive to the 40 series cards, which is, I think, is a bit of a mick take, to be honest. I think it's a wind up. There's no reason why 30 series cards can't use DLSS 3. No reason.
No, it's a selling point. It's definitely, it's just NVIDIA being NVIDIA, basically.
Yeah.
That's too bad. Highlander, I have a Series X and 2 Series S. Wow, you're just collecting them all, huh? One for the kids and one for the wife. Wow, that's very, very nice of you, Highlander. I'm sure they appreciate that. You sound like a candidate ready for that family plan, baby. Whenever that's going to come.
Well, it's hit more markets. That's nice. We know it's come to more markets.
6 more countries. 6 more countries is not us, though.
Not yet.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming this year. There's no way it's not coming this year.
And
I'm
that's
saying
the
that
thing,
right now.
it may possibly be an E3 thing for the US because that's an event that happens in the US.
I agree.
So, or I'm hoping
I think it makes
anyway.
a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense to unveil that. You got to do the, coming to the EU and the US. It's going to be huge because their numbers are going to shoot through the roof when that happens. So
we got a question from Kay Asante. Let's read that out.
Okay, question. When do you guys think we'll see Xbox finally release a game that can really be a showcase for the Series S? Something that can put the narrative to bed? Let me go first. I'm just going to tell you, I don't think the narrative will ever die. Ever. And I don't know if it'll happen.
Fanboys,
I don't think the narrative will ever die, and I don't know if something like Forza. I'm curious to see what Forza does for the Series S in particular. Obviously, the Series X it should use all the tools.
2K60 native.
You think it'll be 2K? That would be fine with that. That would be great. 2K60 would, man, that would be very nice. So
this is what I'm talking about when we're talking about first party. First party studios will absolutely leverage what these machines can do, including the Series S. I think Turn 10 will do that with the Series S, including ray tracing, by the way. I think it'll be 2K60 without ray tracing, 1080p 60 with ray tracing.
Yep.
Of course, you get the upscaled on that, but again, that's
no one cares.
Perfectly fine with me, to be honest.
Yep, me too.
On an actual wow, this looks amazing front outside of Turn 10. I'm always going to say Hellblade. I think the team at Ninja Theory are going to be doing absolutely phenomenal work. Absolutely phenomenal work on Hellblade 2, and I think that's really going to showcase just how good games can look on the Series S. And I don't think it's going to be held back with anything, to be honest. Again, when we're talking about to another comment that was in the chat there that's kind of related to that when it comes to the Series S. We said, could they leverage a cloud for Series S and local play for Series X? Series S isn't going to be a problem as long as the benchmark and the bottom end on PC is still a 1080p. A 1080 Ti. The Series S is always going to be outperforming that, like 9 times out of 10. So as long as PC's bottom end and its lower end requirements, so the 1080 or even the 2060, then the Series S is always going to be in the picture. So there's no issues on that front. I think what it comes down to, and people really hate having to point this out, but it comes down to lazy devs with poor optimization.
Yep.
If you optimize your game correctly, you can get pretty much most modern games, especially games going forward, working correctly on any console. You've just got to optimize it. And that requires, we'll turn down the texture filtering on this a little bit, or we'll turn down the resolution on this a little bit. Not every game has to be 4K, and we don't need that. Like native 4K is such an absolute loss of overhead. That's why we've got,
I agree,
like AMD's version with Fidelity FX to get super resolution. which means you can have a 1080p image that looks just as crispy as a 4K image. So you start utilizing it, and this is what none of the games have done so far. We've had like one game that's utilized fidelity super resolution. So
you don't need it. I'm an engineer. My eyes are. I'm a pixel peeper. My job was to look for this stuff, and if I can't tell the difference, neither can you. You know what I mean? So utilize these technologies so you can get back that power and everywhere else that you need it, so we can have increased frame rates and have better shadows and textures and all that stuff. I'm all about these technologies.
We haven't used FSR. We haven't used any of that stuff yet. We haven't used velocity architecture. We haven't used any of the Unreal things that reduce overheads massively. So it's never going to be an issue for the console if they use all of the technology that's available to them. They haven't used FSR. FSR literally halves your overheads. So instead of pushing out a native 2K or a native 4K image, push out a 1080 image, use FSR to push out a 4K image. You've got the same, literally visually, very hard to identify between an FSR 4K versus a non-FSR native 1080p image.
Mm-hmm.
You'll never, ever tell the difference. It'll look like 4K, but it's a 1080p image. And this is what we need to kind of get our heads around. Like, these developers need to start using, they need to stop blaming hardware and start using the software that's available.
Tools that are given to you. Right. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think it's just fanboy stuff. I don't think, I guess I was saying that I don't think I agree with everything that Dutch said. I just don't think the narrative will ever go away, because as long as you have the Series S, you're always going to have PlayStation guys go, yeah, well, it's running at 1440p and it's half the frames. So you can never win. You're never going to win with the Series S. It's just a war to just ignore them and block them and move on with your day, because these guys are idiots. They don't understand how this stuff works. Of course, the Series S is going to run at a lower res and less frames. It was always meant to be. You know, I think Microsoft's intention for the Series, I think the intention for the Series S was looking at Nintendo. They're going, Nintendo can frickin' put out a potato and sell this many units. Why can't we do something kind of similar in that regard? Save some people some money, get them on Game Pass, get them into our ecosystem, and we got them. And guess what? It worked. Like, it was genius. So
and this is why, like, it was contradictory, especially when the it was Gotham Knights came out and they were like, oh, we couldn't get X, Y, and Z running on consoles because of hardware limitations, etc. And then they released the PC specs, and like the bottom end, like minimum recommendation was still a 1080, and I was like, "You're absolute liars! Just really poorly optimized game."
Yeah, that's why I think it comes down to like money, just time, and pushing it out, right? And you know, shareholders. We got to get the game out, and we see how many times that has worked so well for guys who push crap out too early. Battlefield 2042, Battlefield. We all told you not to do that. You didn't listen, and you paid the piper. Now it's in Game Pass a year later. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it was always going to be because of EA Play, but that's what happens when you rush it out too soon. Everyone tells you not to because you're trying to make a buck so you appease the shareholders. Well, you end up making your situation even worse when you push the game out too early. So.
All right. Well, I guess we need to start wrapping things up. Gosh, Dutch, thank you so much for being here tonight, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it, Dutch.
Your time is valuable, and we do seriously appreciate. And we also do appreciate all the work that you did to help us get our backgrounds and our overlays and stuff looking good. So thank you for that too. I appreciate that. And gosh, Dutch, if you don't mind, tell everybody where they can find you, and not just that, but tell them about both of your shows and the work that they can get done from you too.
Yeah, of course. It's been an absolute blast being here, of course, and we could have probably rattled through even many more topics given the time. I know I could probably talk for days on this, but again, this is what we love. We love the video games. We love the topic, the genre. We love everything about it, which is why we're so passionate about it. Mm-hmm. It's just great speaking about these things, especially with passionate gamers like yourselves who also understand that and want to push it forward. And again, I'm happy to come on again anytime in the future. And
you'll be back for sure.
My pleasure to kind of help you kind of at least try and get the visuals that you're going for and create the kind of overlays and things for you and jazz it up and create your your own look, should we say? Because I like to do that. Everyone else's personalized designs and really stand out from the crowd. So it's awesome to be here. And of course, all the best to you guys and what you do going forward. It's great to have more of you kind of stepping out and doing your own shows now as well. So of course, seeing you going from sitting in the chat to being panel members and now hosting your own shows, it's awesome to see. It's great to see that kind of confidence kind of growing with everybody as well going forward. So hats off to you guys. Hats off to you guys.
Sir.
Thank you. You should mention, Dutch, that your indie showcase. When's that coming up?
I want to hear about that too.
It was amazing. I watched it last time, and I mean the production value. Whew, man, like you guys did a great job. So why don't you talk a bit on that a little bit?
Yeah, so of course the Community Indie Showcase is a indie game showcase created for and made for the community. So of course the only people taking part are people that are within the gaming community, and the people that it's made for is directly the gaming community. So it's not for big corporates, it's not for anything like that. Last year we even had the awesome Aaron Greenberg step by and say a few words and join in the show. And if hopefully this year I convince either Gavin or somebody else to kind of not only just have a few words, but also do their own section within the show as well. So
nice.
That will take place in April. Of course, last year we did one show that was almost 4 hours long. It was like 3 hours, 40 minutes. So it was a super long show. We had 12 creators. We had 110 games or more.
Yeah, you guys had a ton of games.
Yeah. 110 games or more. We had giveaways popping up throughout there. We had just an awesome time. Brand new gameplay footage, brand new game announcements. A lot of the games we showed on there eventually made their way into some of the showcases that we saw from PlayStation and Xbox. So it was good to kind of get ahead of them. But the thing is, of course, being a smaller community show, a lot of people didn't know that some of these games had already been announced on this show.
That's right. See it here first.
Yeah, we tend to try and get things kind of ahead of the game, ahead of the pack. And I'm speaking to a lot of indie developers as they're creating games and as they're just getting them before they go through these exclusivity deals with platforms. So, or through the Game Pass deals and things like that. So it's going to be awesome to do that again this year. Instead of doing one show, we're doing two. So the first of these shows is going to be in April, probably the tail end of April. And the second will be the back end of August, beginning of September. So that'll be 2 indie shows this year. And again, we're going to have at least a dozen community creators get involved to kind of showcase their most anticipated games for this year. And of course, I'll be dropping new and unseen footage of games that'll be coming out as well. So yes, you can find that awesome. Everywhere at Wondering Dutch, of course, which is also the same for our podcast. So everywhere at Wondering Dutch, the home of the Midweek Mixup podcast, which you can find every Wednesday. We do the Sea of Tuesdays podcast, which is every Tuesday, of course, which is a dedicated Sea of Thieves podcast, which we still get guests on there as well. So we've had the likes of Sightless Combat. We've had Luke on, of course, from... I've forgotten the name of his show now. Expansion Pass, that's the one. Yeah. We've had numerous others on there as well from the Sea of Thieves community and content creators there. So that's been awesome to see. And of course, that's hosted by one of my other panel members, Xbox Mick. We've also got the weekend edition, of course, as well, which is usually every fortnight. It's been a little bit off at the moment, but that's just because of busy with other things. So we'll get back to that shortly. This week, we're not having a break, but it will be a pre-recorded podcast because I am traveling.
Nice.
So it'll be a pre-recorded podcast this Wednesday just to ensure we have a podcast for the community.
Nice.
But nonetheless, yes, a lot going on.
Yeah.
But,
you're a little bit busy. Like, just so you know, if you do need help editing, because I know what you do is a ton of work, you can reach out to me. I've been editing for a long time. So if you need help with all the, indie stuff, just reach out to me, brother.
Awesome.
Thank you for coming here, Dutch. It means a lot.
I'm going to have all your links and everything to all your shows and how they can reach out to you in the description. I'm going to add that as soon as we get to we get finished up today. I'll add that here in a few minutes. So, RHETRI, tell everybody about you, man.
Sure.
Where can they find you?
Yeah, Game Pass _daily on Twitter and Game Pass daily on YouTube and TikTok for all your Game Pass content. I try to do news, what's coming, what's going, everything to do with the Game Pass realm, and some Xbox stuff as well. And obviously, I'm on the podcast with Boom on Xbox Factor Podcast on Tuesdays, and here every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, to talk with the awesome community. I love you guys. Thank you all for coming out. I appreciate the support. It means a lot. Make sure to join the Discord channel. I think I have that somewhere.
I also added it into the description already. It'll be there every week now.
Yeah, so join us. We playing with the community. We play COD, all the multiplayer games, Halo, Fortnite, whatever the heck you guys want to do. We'll do Diablo, stuff like that. So join us and play some games with us, dude. I have such a good time. Most of the time we're laughing and crying. We're having such a good time. Galveston in the chat can absolutely attest to that. So yeah, join us. We'll have a good time.
Awesome. And I also want to thank the chat, everybody, for coming out. Kay Asante, Mav from Fun Speculation. Looks like Dreadpool's dropped in. Say hello.
What's up,
Dread? Thank you so much for dropping in. We appreciate this amazing and great community that we have, and everybody else that's joined us too. It means a lot, and we do this because we enjoy it. We love the games, we love the community, and we love talking about this stuff. And that's the reason why me and RHETRI decided to do this show. Was we wanted to have an outlet so people could not just super chats and questions, but because we don't even do super chats right now, but even when we get to that point, we're still going to take community questions, and we want you to be able to, because you may have questions that's built up over the week, or maybe a comment that you want to make and you want to get it out there and get it heard. And as long as it's not derogatory or offensive,
or maybe if it is, maybe I'll slip it in without Dave knowing.
Okay, you can definitely pick on RHETRI all you want to. Just kidding.
That's fine.
I'm just kidding. But no, seriously, it's that's what we do. We love it. We have a lot of fun here. And you can find me on Breakfast with Boom on Fridays. I'm also on his Monday show, which is the Xbox Lunch Break Special. I also on here with RHETRI every Sunday night for Gamers Council. Where we're going to have a different guest come in and out, and Dutch has already said he would come back, so he's going to be on the list.
You heard it,
back.
So he has to now.
Dutch, seriously, you did a great job, and thank you so much for being here. I think this show is so much better, with a third person and somebody with your acknowledgement of the community and everything that has to do with gaming, and your opinions are important to all of us, and we do appreciate you and everything else that you do for the community and the hard work you put in.
And those overlays, I forgot to say, the overlays that you made, I got to get some of those. I've been hearing nothing but good things. He made some overlays for the Xbox.
I got the Starfield one. Yeah.
Because Xbox ain't going to do it. So he's just like, I'll make it for you. So how do you get to those, Dutch? Is it through Twitter?
Yeah. So you just go so essentially just as long as you go onto your web browser on Xbox, log into your Twitter, go to that post that I've got pinned on the Mixup Midweek Twitter page. It's literally pinned as the first thing. You go onto that, you select any of the overlays that I've put down in the thread is what you want. Literally just click on it, save the image to your Xbox, and then you can use it as your background.
Awesome.
Now they're 4K, which means that it will fit to either Series X or Series S, and they fit perfectly.
I'll tell you what I did. I downloaded it on my computer, and then I took a flash drive and moved it over that way. I didn't even think about doing it that way, but that's a little easier. You can just log right in. But hey, I also do have
open to any requests. We've had them from like Xbox fans saying, "Can I have? I know Final Fantasy VII Remake's not on Xbox, but can I have a Final Fantasy?" We'll do that.
Sure.
Did you ever get to Banjo-Kazooie?
Yeah.
Did you ever get to Banjo?
Banjo's on there now. Yeah, that's right.
I know Boom was like all excited for that.
What else? We've had Conker on there. We've got Banjo. I think I need to do a Batman one because Stuffed Sean said he wanted a background, and I jokingly said I'll give him a British flag. Of course, being an Irishman.
Or maybe you could do a really sexy, Harley Quinn. Just saying. What was that?
I can do a Harley Quinn
little
one if you want
bubble butt action. Yeah.
Anything. We've got Pokemon on there as well because there's a few of them have requested Pokemon for their kids.
Well, you know what they say, you got to catch them all.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So I've got Pokemon on there. So
nice.
Yeah. Any requests? absolutely open to that. So if anybody wants an Xbox dashboard created that fits and you can actually appreciate it and see it,
Awesome.
You can see it. You can see the art. Yeah, absolutely. Such a good idea.
Dutch, thank you
I
so
love
much
it.
for doing that. And those are free. He just does them because he likes to do that, because that's how awesome the Wandering Dutch is. Sir, thank you so much for being here. RHETRI, dude, thanks again. Great job tonight, as always. And I really think we're starting to get our feet under us and really starting to get a momentum going on this. And appreciate everybody being here. And I think over the next couple of months and episodes, I think we're just really going to continue to grow. And the Dutch will be back. And I know Kay Asante's already said he would be a guest. I'm going to have to pin him down soon. Hi, Kay. I know you're still in the chat. So we're gonna work that out as well. And thanks everybody for being here at Gamers Council Live.